Hey, everybody. Linda Bean, Outreach Coordinator from the Kellyanne Dolan Memorial Fund. Thank you for joining us for Shining a Light. It's always a bright, special day when we have our beloved founder, Peggy Dolan, conversations with Peggy and catching up with her, hearing up what's going on in her world. And
hi there, Linda.
Hey, Peggy, how you doing?
I'm great.
Awesome.
Except my booted foot, but I'm fine.
I hear you. It's great to see you. I know we have a special kinship in that we were able to share the vaccination journey together. And the world is now opening up. And I know you've got the boot on still. You got something going on with your foot.
Yep. But it's okay. It's okay.
Seems like I don't think it's holding you back. You're going to be taking a little bit of a road trip.
Yeah, and I can't wait.
Where are you going?
Just going to Fairfax, Virginia to visit an old high school friend and going with another high school friend. And while we're down there, we're meeting another high school friend. So it'll be a great reunion and a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll travel well on that. Well,
Thank you.
We're catching up. Shining a light raises awareness. Sometimes we have topics we're hoping to get resources in the hands of families, and we can't do what we do alone. And so we've got some special guests today to welcome that I know you will be so happy to see. A decade that spans over two partnerships. So I'd like to welcome to the show Kathy Valdez and Lisa Kessler.
Hi, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
Well, I can't imagine, the fact that you moved an entire genetics counseling program from Arcadia University to UPenn, and then we moved into COVID. So it has had to be quite a year for you.
It was challenging, but we graduated our first class from Penn, and the majority of them have jobs, so we're doing okay.
That's amazing. So, I mentioned it's been a couple decades that we've had this wonderful partnership with the Masters in Genetic Counseling that was once housed at Arcadia, now at UPenn. Kathy and Peggy, I'm wondering if you could take us back a little bit. How did it all start?
I go first, Kathy. Back in the year 2000, we came out with our first educational program video entitled Financial Management During Crisis. And the Inquirer did a big article on it and put it in the science section. And within a short time, I got a call from Kathy Valdez, and she introduced herself and said she was a director of the Genetics Counseling Master's Program at Arcadia. And she had read the article and was in total agreement with what we were doing and thought it was so great. And she asked if I would come and give a class to her genetic counseling students. And at the time, I just didn't get it. And I said to her, well, I'd be happy to give a class, but I don't see the connection. And she said, oh, Peggy, there's a big connection. She said, because I feel it's equally important for my students to not only know the biological ramifications of genetics on families, but what happens to families, the other side, when a child is born with serious disabilities or illnesses. And from that point on, every year I would get to Arcadia University, and then I ended up on the accreditation team for the university's program. And it was talked about for maybe a couple of years before they actually made the move to the University of Pennsylvania. And I was so excited. We were all so excited about that. And sure enough, the first year there, everything is shut down. So they were really faced with a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, but not only was it a pleasure to come and give a class each year about the other side of medicine, but they got totally ensconced. The department got totally ensconced in our mission and have done fundraisers for us annually with a Bowl-A-Thon. And we got to meet some really great people in the process. So they're true partners. I mean, they truly are a part of our organization. And you go from there. It's your turn.
Okay, well, thank you, Peggy. I remember reading that article very clearly. In fact, if I had been in my office, I was hoping to bring it along because it was still sat on my bulletin board in Arcadia. And, one of the things we try to focus on in the genetic counseling program is the fact that students need to understand the lived experience. So part of caring for an individual with genetic disease is often caring for the entire family. And families are often, put in very difficult choices of whether one individual must, one partner, one parent must quit work, or one partner has to work extra to cover insurance costs. And all of that is so important for the students to understand. So Peggy's firsthand account and her description of the families that the fund supports, it makes a lasting impact on our students. And I know that when they go out there to be practicing genetic counselors, they think about that. They think about the patients and what their needs are. So thank you, Peggy.
No, thank you.
Yeah, that's incredible. I know, what Peggy holds really close to her heart is that the families know that, they're not alone, that there are others. You talked about that lived and shared experience, and that there are supports and resources for them. So well said, Kathy. I'm wondering if we can get a little bit and see how it aligns with somebody who maybe is interested in getting a master's in genetic counseling. What are the three disciplines that kind of factor into that degree? Lisa, do you maybe want to take that one?
Sure. So for individuals who are interested in genetic counseling, there's a lot of different paths to the profession, but primarily there needs to be interest in working with families, having the counseling skills, but also having a strong science background, so strong biology and chemistry background, in addition to the psychology and counseling courses, to really be able to have the background to understand the conditions, but also to be able to sit with families and talk with them during challenging times.
Excellent. Oh, there we've got it coming up from, I think, tapping into your website here, showing the different disciplines: counseling education, the clinical and laboratory medicine, and research. So encompassing, all of those. Good to hear. What kind of services does a genetic counselor provide to a patient? Either Kathy or Lisa could pick this one up.
Well, maybe we could tag team. So, we provide genetic testing. We help families adjust to diagnoses that are made. And I always like to point out that genetic counseling doesn't need to be a one and done. I think a lot of people feel like the diagnosis is made, they've seen the genetic counselor, sort of check that off the box. I like to talk about, as a family grows with the diagnosis, many other issues arise, having additional children, carrier testing other folks in the family. So our services really do encompass not just the individual, but the family.
Okay.
Lisa, do you want to add?
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you were talking, and I like to think of it as a process, truly. And we work with families in a lot of different settings. So sometimes people think of genetic counseling and automatically think of pregnancy in a prenatal setting. And that's one place where genetic counselors work. And then we also work with families in cancer settings or pediatric type settings or adult, where we really can support families, throughout different life changes.
Sure. It's good information. Peggy, you mentioned the Bowl-A-Thon. I've had the privilege of the last, not this past year because of COVID, but 3 or 4 of them. Boy, what a fun time where you see, the whole faculty, the students really get involved, incredible raffle baskets. And, we meet towards the end of the semester. And the program raises a great deal of money that goes to helping our families with bill pay. I'm wondering if maybe each of you could share some of your favorite memories from past Bowl-A-Thons. Peggy, you want to start? Oops.
Sorry, the dogs were barking. No, I said I was shocked the first year when I found out what they were planning to do. And I thought it was really, really a great thing. And they found a bowling alley that you can rent out all for one organization. And they would hold this there. And it wasn't that they were just bowling. Now, mind you, these are students, they're studying, but many of them are working as well. So their time is very limited. And yet they would go and solicit gifts, and they would have all kinds of raffles and food donated. And there you go. And it was just a great event to get out and have some fun and raise money for actually the kinds of people that they were there to help for, that their studies were focused on.
Sure.
So it's been an incredible journey. And long, just ongoing. You think it's not a one and done deal. They continued to do it year after year. So we were just very, very lucky.
Yeah, it's great. It's like it's a whole family affair. The kids come out. Each lane is sponsored. You saw Peggy a little while ago. She, I think, won that fun lottery tree raffle basket one year. So, Kathy and Lisa, any favorite memories you'd like to share?
I think that's fun for me, is not only it is the students in the current class who, come, but we've had some alumni who have come to almost every one of the Bowl-A-Thons and bring their own children. So it's been a bit of a, it's down the lane, we have people that come from multi-years. So it's a bit of reunion when we have the Bowl-A-Thon, and that's really fun. In fact, one of the students who was in our first graduating class comes regularly, and that's really amazing. She graduated in 1997, so she is someone who attends regularly. So that's great to see.
Wow.
That's awesome. I remember one year chatting with a family who, when they heard about the cause, they drove an hour from Jersey to come to the Bowl-A-Thon because they wanted not only to support their child, but felt, geez, such a worthy cause. I would like to have a little bit of fun, but help contribute. And that's just, incredible. It speaks to really the students and the faculty at the program and raising awareness about the families in need and how to help them. Lisa, I know it's fallen to you to kind of coordinate over the last few years. Anything ring true with you?
The thing I was thinking a lot about was really the connection with having Peggy come to class just before we would typically hold the Bowl-A-Thon, and seeing the students. Oh, I'm hearing an echo. See if that fits it. And seeing the students really get connected to Peggy and her story and everything that she brought into the program, and then just really seeing their dedication to putting on the Bowl-A-Thon and being there. And I've taken my family over the past several years, and I was thinking, Linda, of that same family that drove from far to all be there to support the students. So seeing the students come together with their families is also just a tremendous part.
Awesome. Great shared memories. I'm wondering if either of you could point, are there any available resources other than, meeting with a genetic counselor? Are there support groups? Are there places that families can turn to for more information or resources that you can think of?
That's one of the roles of a genetic counselor. Very often, there are a lot of disease-specific organizations, and genetic counselors very often, share that information with families. Just today, I got some literature that came to me from the Down Syndrome Society about, sharing this information with genetic counselors to raise awareness about Down syndrome. So very often, genetic counselors are solicited by disease-specific organizations. And then when we see patients who, might have that condition, we're able to share that information. But it's important for the students to understand how important that support is for someone who's newly diagnosed, who feels like I'm the only one in the world who's had this condition. Some of the conditions we deal with have, very long and complicated sounding names, and it can be quite overwhelming for a family when they're first diagnosed. So that sense of support is really important.
Sure. Lisa, anything you want to add, Peggy?
Well, I was not even aware of genetic counselors when our kids got sick, and I often wonder, when is it that a family is even told about genetic counseling? And should every parent, or should every expectant parent be told something about genetic counseling and the availability of counselors and what they should be considering and thinking about?
That's a good question, Peggy. Lisa, Kathy, thoughts on that?
Kathy. Oh, okay. I was going to ask if you wanted to take it. Yeah, it's an excellent question, Peggy. And I feel like as a younger field, many people didn't know about genetic counseling for sure. And over time, I feel like it's gotten a little bit more well known. And Kathy, maybe you should take it. I'm having a bad echo.
Oh, okay. I think that usually at the time of diagnosis, so we talk a lot about diagnostic journey. Lots of families that have children with rare diseases are on a diagnostic journey, and it takes them quite some time. It can take a number of years until they get a diagnosis. So usually at the time of diagnosis, folks see genetic counselors, and they're part of, or genetic counselors can be part of that diagnostic journey. But now there's lots of resources. Genetic counselors used to be in just major medical centers, but one of the silver linings of the pandemic is we're doing a lot more telehealth, and telegenetics is increasing. So we're hoping to have outreach to, greater communities where people don't have to travel so far, because that's another barrier sometimes when you have a child with, limited mobility or, ventilator dependence, hard sometimes to come for an extra appointment for genetic counseling. So we're trying to increase access by doing more telehealth and telegenetics. So I think there are more of us, Peggy, than there were when we first met. There's now about 5,000 genetic counselors, probably even more than that now. We just had graduation, right? Getting close to 6,000. So we're increasing our numbers and increasing our access. So hopefully more people will be able to avail themselves to our services.
That's great. I know when I was thinking about having children and not having any medical history because I was adopted, it's one of the things that we had, asked. I asked my doctors about, should I pursue? And, my kids are 26 and 21 now. And as you said, Peggy, we were not steered in that direction, to pursue that. So I didn't. But, how many parents today, if they had all of the information prior to conceiving a family, would have some information and choices to make, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think even like in our case, that we ended up with 2 children with a very rare form of leukemia that shows itself as aplastic anemia first. And years after our Kimmy's bone marrow, successful bone marrow transplant, I might add, my husband's son, my stepson, ends up with leukemia as well. And it was only around that time did anyone say, oh, this is a genetics issue. So obviously it wasn't on my side. It was on my husband's side. But no one said that in the beginning. It wasn't seen that way. We were told after Kelly's death that it would be okay to have more children, not to worry. But, is it a matter of advances, that people are finally seeing this and research is finally discovering this? And genetic counseling itself as a, a form of medicine. When did that actually start? Do you know what year or how long?
Oh, I'd like to answer that because the
Okay,
first graduating class at Sarah Lawrence was in 1969.
there
The
you
first
go.
class, the class opened, so their
There
first graduating class was in 71. So we just had the 50th anniversary of the first graduating class of genetic counselors. And one of the individuals in that class spoke at our graduation. So we had our first graduating class from Penn, and someone from the first graduating class from Sarah Lawrence came. So it's come to a
Wow.
big circle.
Wow.
So yeah, so just 50 years, which is relatively short in terms of healthcare professions.
Yeah. So it actually started when Kelly was born, 1969. How
Yeah,
about that?
look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't that far off.
No. Our numbers were really small back then,
I
Peggy.
know.
We could
And
all sit in one room, all the genetic counselors.
it's amazing. It really truly is. I mean, I just, such a great program. And I'm shocked that not every university has that program, to this day. So, and I'm glad that university, I mean, Arcadia was really instrumental in getting it going. And thank God they had you know, the intuition or whatever you want to call it to include that in their curriculum and in their programs. And how great for the University of Pennsylvania to recognize what a significant and successful program you developed, Kathy. So I know you're very proud, and I know the whole accreditation team was proud to see it move to the University of Pennsylvania. But now that things are opening up, I hope it'll just go gangbusters and more students will join in. And Linda, I know I mentioned this to you the other night. It's not only been a 21-year program with us and partnership with us, and it's not only included my giving information to the students and having the honor of addressing them, but and getting money from their fundraisers, but we collaborated on a really neat event a couple years ago, and I happened to dig out my book on the cure. There was a great movie that was out called Extraordinary Measures, and it starred Brendan Fraser and Harrison Ford. And it was the real life story of the Crowley family, who had 2 children with this rare genetic disorder. And we had John Crowley, the dad, come, and we had this whole event at Arcadia University where they not only showed the movie, but John came and spoke and had a book signing, and we had a cocktail hour and everything. It was really neat, and people did come from all over after reading what we were doing. They weren't connected with the university, they weren't connected with our organization, but they read about it, and because of their own experiences came that night. And it was really a fantastic event, and I'm still appreciative of Kathy. In total agreement. And what I didn't know was she used the book and the story of the Crowleys in her classes to talk to the students. So
I remember how powerful that movie was, and it really kind of brings our conversation today full circle, in that it's really a complex puzzle. Kathy used the word journey for families, and the value add to having more programs like genetic counseling. A few months ago, we interviewed a family who thought, working for 10 years, their child was on the autism spectrum or some sort of intellectual disability. And it was only in the last year that they discovered that he has a rare fatal genetic condition called Sanfilippo syndrome. And they're in the fight of their life. Like the Crowleys were in the fight of their life. And I think about all the pieces that you put together and the value that a genetic counselor in just being able to sit and hear. Nobody knows the child better than the parent or the parents, right? And to help piece those things together. And what you might discover And I think about it now at UPenn at your disposal, the multidisciplinary medical teams into, geez, being able to maybe make many more advances in this field. So, you know, my hat's off to you. I love tagging along with Peggy for her lecture each year, the Bowl-A-Thon, partnering on that. So I hope as we're moving forward in getting settled at Penn and the world opening up, that we can, you know, get back to those wonderful elements to our partnership. I want to lighten it up just a tiny bit to close, because I don't know if it's Peggy, or it seems like there's always cake involved with our partnerships. And so I just need to get to the bottom. Is Peggy the culprit? Because it seems we have this nice, beautiful cake, not only when she comes for guest lecture, she's generally bringing it then, but there's also a big cake at the Bowl-A-Thon. So where does the cake all come down?
You remember, Peggy, the Weinrich Bakery? They were on your board, and they brought the cakes the first couple of years, and then everyone was always looking for cakes, so the cake was something we always continued to bring along.
That was a great cake that they made for us, and they were great at always doing something special for different events. Beside the fact that I have a very sweet tooth, but
well, I love it.
And it was always a great way to celebrate, you know, either the event or the end of the lecture or whatever. But yeah, it was, you know, really nice to have an added sweet.
Yeah, it's a really nice tradition that helps characterize, and that's great, Peggy. You know, it's a very sweet partnership and relationship that we cherish with Kathy and Lisa and the genetic counseling program. Well, this has kind of been a nice walk down memory lane today, but we did provide a lot of great, useful information. So by chance, if there's someone out there that will see this video, I believe you got an open house coming up if somebody is inspired by the field. Okay, here it is right here, Kathy, coming up on June 16th at 4 o'clock. I believe it's virtual, right? So how do
We
people...
have a virtual open house, yes.
Okay, so they just need to get in touch with you by email if they're interested?
Yes, I think there's a link on the bottom, and they can register for the event and get the Zoom link. And yeah, we're happy to talk to people who are interested in the field and how to apply and all that kind of great stuff. And if I have a second, I'd just like to tell you something, Peggy. Our new home at Penn is right next to Amicus. So every day when I walk into my office, I see the big sign, sign on the top of the building that says Amicus Therapeutics, and I often think of John. And he was actually at Penn giving a lecture in February. So I did have a chance to hear him recently and did write him a note. So I'm going to follow up with that and see how he's doing. So,
wow. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Cool. Well, it has been great to spend time with everybody. I hope you have a wonderful summer as the semester's coming to a close with family and friends. And we just cannot wait to connect again next year with you. Thank you for all you do.
Thanks again. Mwah.
Thank you.
Next week, Shining a Light. Boy, do we have a good one. We have a young woman inspired when she chose to write Disney. Hey, how come there are no superheroes, princes with disabilities? And when she didn't get a return call, her response was, I'm going to start my own organization. So please join us next Thursday to hear from We Can't to We Can, a wonderful organization. Make it a great day, everybody.